Hey guys, good morning. It is April 20th. Yeah, April 20th, 2022. I almost forgot the date. And today we're in chapter 25, verse 7 through chapter 25, verse 11. And we see something really special in these verses, and I'm going to read it. The subtitle is The Death of Abraham. Abraham lived for 175 years, and he died at a ripe old age, having lived a long and satisfying life. He breathed his last and joined his ancestors in death. His son Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite. This was the field Abraham had purchased from the Hittites, and where he had buried his wife Sarah. After Abraham's death, God blessed his son Isaac, who settled near Baharalroi in Negava. I can't say that with those words. This should remind us of something. Abraham bought land so that he could bury Sarah. And Abraham himself is buried exactly where he buried his wife. The reason this is so important is because God said this will be your descendants' land. So Abraham passed it on to Isaac and Ishmael. And he never saw the fulfillment of God's blessing. He never saw all of us. He never saw any of that stuff. But he trusted in God. And he bought the land and he was buried there. And it says he lived a long and satisfying life. And there's many speculations on what that means. He was rich, he had a lot of cattle, he had a lot of things, but what I think it also means is he had a lot of trust in God. So he trusted God to fulfill his promise. He trusted God that he was going to do something. He saw his son marry Rebecca, so he knew that the promise was going to be fulfilled. And that's the thing, is sometimes we don't see the full fulfillment of God's blessing, because God's blessing is a continuation of things. When God blesses us, and we've learned this in previous chapters, when God blesses us, he's not only blessing us for us, he's blessing us for others, so we can give others the things of the blessing. So God wasn't only blessing Abraham for Abraham. He was blessing Abraham for Isaac. He was blessing Abraham for Jacob. He was blessing Abraham for us. But Abraham never saw that. Abraham died, and he never saw me and you. He never saw, people in the New Testament. But Abraham knew that God fulfills his promises. And one of the parts of his promise, and I'm going to go back to this, is that the land was going to belong to his descendants. Well, how is that supposed to happen? He bought the land. God gave him the ability to buy the land. So that's something that is, a promise that God fulfilled. And God is going to fulfill the rest of it, as you know, because we're here. So sometimes we need to realize that we may never see the full fulfillment of God's promise and God's blessing, but we need to also remember the blessings that we do see the fulfillment of is not meant for just us. It's meant for others, and it's meant for his glory. We can learn a lot from the people in the Bible. We can learn a lot of warnings, and we can learn a lot of the ways we should act. But the most important thing we can learn is trusting in God. Trusting in God in the good times. He says he died at a ripe old age. It's satisfying life. But also trusting in him in the hard times. The times like Abraham and Sarah waiting for Isaac. When we trust in God, no matter what the situation, we know he is there. Abraham and Sarah tried to take it onto their own, and they had Ishmael. Or Hagar and Abraham had Ishmael. And we learn in further verses what that means, but Abraham died trusting in God. So here's my question to you. Are you in a trial? Or are you in a time of celebration? Either way, can you trust in God to guide you through that? In the Psalms it says, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and I fear no evil. The reason that is because God is walking with us. He's right by our side. Sometimes he carries us, but he is always there. And that's what Abraham knew, that he would always be there. So I hope today you see Jesus in all you do. I hope today you see God's promise all around you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.